The only thing that could derail the Golden State Warriors season happened 3 games into the season last night against the Los Angeles Clippers. Stephen Curry left with an ankle injury, and that's what we're going to be talking about on today's show as the Warriors got a double dose of bad news. But before we do, this is why you subscribe. When the Golden State Warriors have news like this, we inform you guys with a video. We get a video out as soon as possible, and we tell you guys the news. We make sure you guys are informed about your Golden State Warriors all season long. So hit that sub button. We're on the road to 69K. Very nice. Help us get there. We're about less than 500 away, so hit that sub button. We'll have you covered with your Warriors all season long. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith, and we got some bad news in the Bay Area last night. On the Golden State Warriors home opener, things turned for the worse. As Shams Charania is reporting right here, Golden State Warriors star Stephen Curry has sustained a left peroneal strain, got that first try, and will be reevaluated on Friday, sources tell ESPN. Now, Anthony Slater with a little bit more exposition here on Steph's status. He said Stephen Curry will miss the Warriors' next 2 games against the Pelicans. That's funny. He didn't mention the following opponent. But after his ankle sprain last night, I'm told no structural damage. Very good, very good. Evaluated Friday prior to 5-game road trip. Now, how did this injury come about? Slater actually did a really good job doing a little bit of play-by-play in the article that he dropped last night. He said the first twist came late in the third quarter. Curry hobbled toward the bench and called for a substitution, but didn't leave for the locker room after talking it over with team trainer Drew Yoder. Curry instead asked for an exercise band to stretch it out while on the bench. Curry sat until the middle of the fourth quarter, grimacing while trying to put pressure on it. He entered at the 8:08 mark and within 10 seconds twisted it again while setting a screen in the left corner. Curry's pain was obvious immediately. He limped toward the corner, called for a substitution, and then hobbled to the back, followed by lead medical decision maker Rick Celebrini. Then general manager Mike Dunleavy went down the tunnel moments later to check on Curry. The team ruled him out soon after. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. This is horrible news for the Golden State Warriors. Stephen Curry is the Golden State Warriors. Without him on this roster, without him playing games, stacking up wins is going to be very difficult, especially for a Golden State Warriors team that's new to each other. Now, Steph wasn't necessarily having the greatest start to the season. He's shooting above 40% from 3, which is what you need to get from Steph if you want to stack up wins in the Bay Area. But the numbers weren't necessarily great. The volume wasn't there. Field goal percentage, he was missing at the rim a ton. Only less than 20 points per game so far through the first 3 games. But at the end of the day, these numbers were never going to stay this way. We always knew Steph Curry was going to bounce back and play at the MVP-like level that we know him to play at. But, man, this is just terrible, terrible news for a Warriors team that, started the season fantastic. 2 30-plus point wins to open the year. A tough loss last night. And I guarantee if Steph Curry makes it through the final 8:08 of that game, Warriors come out with a win. They were only down 1 with like 2 minutes left. And then the Clippers went on this little run where the Warriors played some really egregious defense. We'll talk about that later in the show. But Steve Kerr did say that Steph said the injury, in his words, was mild or moderate. So that's good news on the Steph Curry injury front. Hopefully this isn't a necessarily long injury that Steph is going to sustain here. And that's kind of where I'm at, right? If Steph isn't worried about the injury, then I'm not worried, right? Like, he has sustained ankle injuries before. It's kept him out for really long stretches. I'm sure Stephen Curry knows that the pain that he's experiencing right now is probably not going to keep him out long term, so that's why he's not worried, and I'm not worried. But I am a little bit worried about the Warriors without Steph Curry. What do you guys think? This will be the pinned comment in today's video, so YouTube's going to throw you a little ad break right here. Go down in the comments section and answer today's pinned comment. Are you worried about the Golden State Warriors without Stephen Curry on the team? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I'm trying to hear from Dub Nation. So here is a little bit of guesstimation from a Twitter doctor who covers sports injuries. And he said, looks like an inversion lateral ankle sprain for Stephen Curry. Positive note is he still wears the ankle braces, which should lessen the severity of the sprain. Timeline of healing, if it's a grade 1 sprain, 1 to 2 weeks. If it's a grade 2 sprain, 4 to 6 weeks. And that could really derail the beginning of a Warrior season that looked really, really promising to kick things off. And my whole take about this situation is that the beginning of this season for the Warriors was about building chemistry. It was about Steve Kerr finding the right rotations. And if you don't have Stephen Curry in there, like, you're kind of just, I guess you're going to, a little silver lining, you're going to find out who's going to emerge without Steph Curry in the lineup. But this is about building chemistry, building a togetherness between this Golden State Warriors roster that wasn't there previously. You bring in three big-time rotation pieces in Hield, Melton, and Anderson, and now you're playing without Steph Curry, the main engine of this Warriors offense. So what are you really going to see over the next couple of games where Steph Curry's going to miss? I hope it's good things. I hope we see an immersion from the young talent on this team that may have struggled to start the first 3 games of the year, but I don't really know. The Warriors offense with Steph Curry on the court versus without, it is night and day. But I hope that the Warriors could find the willpower to stack up a couple wins in Steph's absence. Now, that's not the only bad news that we're going to get on today's show. We're going to cover the extra dose of bad news on the back half and who must step up in Stephen Curry's absence. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform with over 10 million active members. It's the best way to get real action on real sports and win real money in real time. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All you guys got to do is pick 2 to 6 player stat projections and just click more or less. And when you place $5 on one of those entries, don't even have to win. Prize Picks will give you $50 in your account when you use our promo code CLNS. Now, Prize Picks offers so many different categories. They offer so many different sports, and you can combine those sports. We got football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. It's a sports equinox here in the middle of October. I love days like this. Give me Dexter Lawrence to have more than 0.25 sacks against the Steelers' weak interior offensive line. LeBron, don't turn the ball over. You had way too many last night against these Suns tonight. Give me less than 3.5 TOs. And then the World Series is here. I think these 2 pitchers are probably some of the worst in their rotations for each respective team. Give me more than a half a run scored in the first inning, one of the most electric ways you can play on Prize Picks. And I had to throw a little bit of hockey in there. Give me Braden Point more than 2.5 shots on goal. You can take my picks. You can fade my picks. Just make sure you go and do it at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use that promo code CLNS, and Prize Picks will give you $50 for free when you place a $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. The bad gets worse for the Golden State Warriors in the injury front. Anthony Slater reporting here just minutes after the Stephen Curry official diagnosis. He said another injury issue for the Warriors. De'Anthony Melton is also out against the Pelicans tomorrow. Right facet inflammation, team is calling it. Warriors being careful with Melton, who missed a large chunk of last season with a back issue. Only 38 games played for Melton last year. And he went on to say that Melton will miss at least the next 2 games, along with Stephen Curry, with the strained lower back, team says. Steph Curry out, Andrew Wiggins questionable with a lower back strain. This is where the depth begins to be tested. Oh, thank the Lord for depth, I guess. I mean, thank the Lord for coming into this season with as many guards as you did have in a potential Warriors rotation. I mean, 6, 7 guys who could be getting real minutes at the 1 and the 2 on this team. Now 2 of them are out, and we're really going to see who is going to be, necessarily inserted into this rotation for the long term. Like if Brandon Podziemski or Moses Moody just starts lighting it up, those guys are going to be actual focal points for this offense. But I know Melton's out, and that stinks, right? But at the end of the day, Stephen Curry is the engine of Golden State Warriors. He is the Golden State Warriors. Without him, the future of this team is bleak. You didn't bring in a second superstar this year, so you have your one superstar in Steph. Andrew Wiggins playing pretty well so far to start the season. Shout out to him. But you don't have any go-to guys anymore. You don't have anybody that the opposing teams will fear. So guys are going to have to step up. And let's start with a guy who I think is going to take over the starting point guard duties, and that is Brandon Podziemski. Now, Brandon Podziemski is a guy who I thought that would be a stat sheet stuffer this year in all facets of the game. So far this year, I mean, he's getting there. He's crashing the glass. He's making effort plays, and he's putting his body on the line as well, taking multiple charges through the first couple of games of Golden State season. I love to see Brandon Podziemski just doing the dirty work for Golden State because he's not a naturally gifted athlete. He's not a naturally gifted, lights-out, knockdown three-point shooter like Stephen Curry is. He has to find his way into the rotation doing the dirty work, and I love that about Podziemski. He can pass the ball very well. He can score off the bounce, but this is going to be a bigger role than he's ever seen in his career. He's never really played without Steph Curry last year in his rookie season. Now it comes a much bigger challenge for Podziemski, and for a team that now loses De'Anthony Melton, who is kind of a facilitator, right? Somebody who initiates offense, brings the ball up the floor for Golden State. Ball's going to be in Brandon Podziemski's hands a whole lot more. Next up, this one seems a little obvious to me. Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I don't want to spend too much time at Kuminga because I want to see a game or two without Steph and want to see, kind of the handcuffs taken off of Jonathan Kuminga, let him kind of work and just do his own thing, maybe even try to do the most for Golden State. I don't know. But he's been a net negative so far. I mean, 33% from the field, Jonathan Kuminga. I think it's less than 30%. I think I know it's less than 30% on the three-point shots. It might be less than 20%. This is a guy who the Golden State was willing to offer and pay $30 million annually. He wanted $55 million annually. He's not getting that now. He better step it up. If you can't pass, you can't shoot, you can't defend, and you can't rebound, what are you good for, Jonathan Kuminga? Cutters from the dunker spot don't get paid $30+ million. So you're going to have to figure out another way to be effective on this roster. I don't like what I've seen from Jonathan Kuminga so far this year. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing something that you guys are, and Kuminga is just facing a little adversity that he's going to be able to overcome. Give a grade for Jonathan Kuminga so far through 3 games of the 2024-25 NBA season. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Next up, Buddy Hield. Now, I'm not saying that Buddy Hield hasn't stepped up for Golden State because he's been fantastic so far through 3 games. A little bit of an off shooting night against the Clippers last night, but without Steph, that's a guy that they're going to be keying in on around the perimeter. Buddy Hield, though, that's a guy that Steve Kerr wants to see in lineups without Steph Curry. And he said that before the Steph injury. So I think that he's going to be a big-time focal point. Maybe he'll end up getting the starting nod, and it'll be a little bit of a traditional, an untraditional point guard setup with maybe not a true one in the lineup, and you have a guy like Draymond Green kind of facilitating and initiating the offense. Buddy Hield is a guy that needs to be a big-time scoring punch for Golden State. Like, he basically needs to take over Steph's scoring because he's just the only three-point threat that I legitimately would fear if I'm an opposing team. He's got to be able to knock him down, though. A little bit of a rough shooting night last night. I know Buddy Hield's going to recover. He fits this offense like a glove. And finally, like I kind of just mentioned, with an untraditional point guard lineup, sure to be imported by Steve Kerr over these next few games, Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson is one of the most underrated pickups in free agency this year. The way that he can play multiple positions, guard multiple positions, hit the 3 at a decent clip, and be able to have the ball in his hands with confidence. The coaching staff has confidence when Kyle Anderson has the ball in his hands. He is elite at working out of the high post if he gets it up there, finding open shooters on the wings and in the corners, and he can bring the ball up as well and really initiate an offense. He can run a pick and roll. He can run as the pick and roll as the ball handler and the roll man. And I think that Kyle Anderson, with his absence, with Stephen Curry and Melton out, there's going to be more opportunities for these non-traditional facilitators to have the ball in their hands, and that's what I think that Kyle Anderson is going to do. That'll be it for today's edition of Golden State Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Make sure you give me a follow down on Twitter. I actually tweeted about the Steph Curry injury as it happened last night, so that's going to be the first place that you ever hear any Warriors news from me. But if you don't have Twitter, make sure you are subscribed to the channel like I mentioned earlier. We're on the road to 69,000 subscribers. When the Warriors have news, we make a video for you. So join us along for the ride this NBA season. Subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.